Have you been experiencing internal financial struggles triggered by economic concerns? Are you feeling capped at your current income level and can't seem to realize your financial potential? Energy healer Gene Border has created an emotional freedom technique, or EFT, tapping protocol to help calm the inner voice that keeps you stressed. Claim your free copy at geneborder.com/vow and say goodbye to those financial blockages. Welcome to another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Gene Border. It's not just about dreaming, it's about making those dreams a practical reality. Subscribe to us via your favorite network by visiting our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. Now, get ready. Your journey to success starts here.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Gene Border, with another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, where we talk everything energy or mindset to help you better your business. I have a special guest with me here today. I'm so excited for this conversation. However, before we get there, I want to remind everyone that there is a free resource for you down below in the notes, geneborder.com/Val. If you're not looking, you're just listening. Before you make those financial decisions that have you a little bit tense or a little bit stressed, get yourself in a calm state. And if you need some help with that, use the EFT tapping protocol. That's free for you right below. Just click on the link. It'll take you right there. You do a little bit of tapping. Your nervous system is calm. You can make a rational, smart decision instead of a reactionary, fear-based decision. It's there for you if you want it. And now, back to my special guest. This is JM Ryerson, and I'm so excited to talk to him because I'm big on leadership. I really am. I love discussions about leadership, and he's got a lot of knowledge in that area. But before we go there, hi, JM. How are you?
Gene, I am doing awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I love talking about mindset and leadership and energy. So I think we're going to have some fun today.
Cool. So tell the listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I am a simple kid from Montana. That's where I was raised. And I ended up being in the entrepreneurial world. I built 3 companies in the financial service space, which I know nothing about, by the way. I don't know anything about financial services, but that wasn't what I was good at. There was 3 things I learned really early I was good at: sales, leadership, and building teams. And so that's what I did. And I thought that's what I'd probably do forever until I wrote my first book, which called Let's Go Win, Keys to Living Your Best Life. And I actually wrote the book. My wife and I have 2 sons, 18 and 15-year-old sons. And the whole idea that why I wrote the book is I wanted them to have an idea of some of the philosophies I had if I got hit by a bus and I was gone, that I had learned from my parents and grandparents and mentors and authors. So the gal I was working with said, "Man, you're selfish." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "If you only share this book with 2 human beings, you're selfish." I said, "All right, cool." So went ahead, published the book, and it took off to what Let's Go Win has become today, which is the company exists to inspire people to live their best lives. And so you're right. A performance, leadership, mindset coach is what people hire me for. And right now, what I'm doing is I'm working with companies to help them double or triple their revenue, doing what I love: sales, leadership, and building teams. They get to make a lot more money. Like my most recent client, I think he's making about $100,000 more every single month that we work together. And I get to have a small piece in that too. So it's like this awesome win-win. So anyway, Let's Go Win has just been this awesome philosophy, this amazing company. And I don't think I'll ever sell this one. I think this one, I'd love for my kids to take over someday if they choose to.
So when you started this, I'm very interested in people's journey, right? So you started at one point and now it's grown into this. So talk to us about that journey. How did you get from where you started to where you are now? If you've had multiple businesses, but they all come back to the same foundations, right?
Yeah, it sure does. You know, what I realized when I started Let's Go Win, I didn't really have a vision for what it was. It was just something that I wanted to create to help people, right? Initially, again, for my kids. And so I started by just doing some one-on-one coaching with some executives and some athletes. I was just asked, my first client was actually a buddy's son. He said, "Hey, can you help my son lose weight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I could do that." So we helped him lose 80 pounds in about 6 months. And it's not that I'm again, I'm not a dietitian. I'm certainly not a trainer, but what I really teach is some habits, some basic things. And then the next client was a professional golfer who had missed 12 straight cuts. And the guy that was like helping him, he goes, "Can you help this guy?" I said, "Yeah, I could probably do that." Well, we helped him make 4 out of the next 5 cuts, and he was top 50 in the world the year after. But I think what it came down to, Gene, and I realized very, very early, like, again, this company's to inspire people to live their best lives. Cool. So the one-on-one coaching is good, but it's not really what does it for me. I love helping companies perform in a way more than they thought they could. And so, yeah, there's been several iterations throughout, just kind of writing some books, and I do the podcast and I enjoy that. But really what gets me out of bed is when these business owners can take off and I get to be a part of that journey. It's just so much fun.
Cool. So what's one of the biggest obstacles you found when you were trying to do this? You had a few clients that like came right to you and had really great results, but what were some of the challenges that you happened to run into?
Well, that would be on me. The shiny object syndrome,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
yeah. We entrepreneurs like to please everyone and do everything because you can. And I certainly did that. In fact, every time I go to write a book, my wife's like, "Really? You're going to write a book again? Why?" And it's actually a good question. It's like, what is the purpose of the book? Don't just write to write. And so early on, it was just, organized chaos is what I called it. It was just doing this and doing that and doing that. When I finally realized, like, hey, man, do what you're good at and what is really your passion, that's when things really started to take off. And it makes it easier for everyone involved. The consumer knows who you are, what you do, and you know exactly who you are and what you do. So that was it was the biggest distraction for the company. But you know what? I'm glad it happened the way it did, because I love making those mistakes, and that's a big part of the journey.
You said a few things. You love making those mistakes. So many times the self-talk in the head beats us up, right? We should be perfect the first time we do it. There should not be a mistake. We should just get it right. And if we don't, oh my gosh, I failed. I'm a terrible person. Doesn't sound like that was a problem for you.
Well, I can't say that we didn't used to be. I have the 13 daily reminders is what I called this thing. And the very top, it said, "Your inner dialogue's a jerk. Be kind to yourself." So I'm not wired that way. I absolutely have that, or used to, where I would beat the heck out of myself, and we're so hard on ourselves. And I had that sign up, your inner dialogue's a jerk, be kind to yourself, because I didn't like that. I think you need to be your greatest cheerleader. No one else out there is going to do it for you at the end of the day. More often than not, the world's going to tell you everything that you're not. So the more that we can really recognize that we are our biggest cheerleader, we are our greatest supporters, and just give yourself some grace. But it is interesting, Gene, how often people, they don't want to fail, and they're afraid to fail. I'm like, dude, the greatest success stories all come from people that were not afraid to fail again and again and again. And I fail every single day. Literally today, I fail, and yet the only reason I had any success, quote unquote, is because I don't know how to quit. I just keep going. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, where it's the only way you really fail is if you quit. And for entrepreneurs, I was talking about on a previous podcast, but Everybody talks about Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. It's a great book, but he's got another one called 3 Feet from Gold. And that is a really important book that I think people should read if you're an entrepreneur, because so often you're right there and yet you quit just at the right before your business is about to take off. And I hate seeing that.
And it can happen repeatedly. And then it might be useful to figure out, okay, so what inside me is getting me to the end, right at the finish line? And then I'm like, oh, I need to take a rest break. And then you never come back just to step over the finish line. Because typically there's something going on in the head, right?
Well, so often, as you know, Gene, people have these self-limiting beliefs and self-doubts. Now, here's the deal. They probably weren't yours to begin with. More than likely, mom or dad or brother, sister, or friends, they painted you with this brush and they gave you some of these really negative, self-limiting beliefs. And so, yeah, often people are like, I'm not worthy of success. And I love that quote where they say, my greatest fear is not of failure. My greatest fear is my light and how bright I can shine. And there's a great quote. I don't know the entire thing offhand, but it is your greatest fear is the strength that we have. And so often, people don't think they're worthy of accomplishing these amazing things. I was that way. When it came to making money, I had a really negative relationship with money. And that was one of the self-limiting beliefs I needed to overcome, because my dad had told me, the country club, that was for the pretty people. And, when I made 7 figures for the first time, I remember I was like 27 years old, and you think you'd celebrate that. I felt terrible. I remember really thinking like, I'm not worthy of this. I'm just a simple kid from Montana, just like I started. And while that's true, why would you put any emotional attachment to this thing called money? And so I had to work through all that to realize that's crazy. Every time I make more money, I'm just creating more opportunities, whether it's a company or I'm hiring somebody or whatever opportunities that you're doing. So yeah, often we have to check and just be like, why do I think I'm not worthy? Where did that come from?
So when you were working through that, was there a feeling of disloyalty to your father because you were going against his beliefs?
That's pretty insightful. I don't know if I'd say disloyal. I don't think I wanted to outshine my dad, was really what was going on in the background. Because again, my parents, they're my heroes. They're incredible people. And unfortunately, my dad's no longer here, but I think often people they will play small because they don't want to outshine their parents. Now, what's crazy about that, me being a parent as well, I want my kids to outshine the heck out of me. I think every parent wants their child to have a better life than they had. And it's not that I didn't have a great one, but I want my kids to have everything. So yeah, I don't know if it's being disloyal, but certainly not wanting to outshine my dad. There was something going on there. And it took about, 2 to 3 years of really focused self-development, personal growth to say, well, that's all crazy. And here's the other thing. Those ideas came from my dad's dad, who came from his dad's dad. And if you think about it, this idea around money had come from like the early 1900s. It's kind of asinine to apply it 100 years later in this world that has shifted and changed so much. But often that's the generational stuff that comes along. So to get rid of that and for my kids to have truly an abundant mindset, it's one of my proudest moments of being a dad.
Cool. Yeah, so many times we get weird ideas about money, and in my world, I say take the charge off of it, right? Take the emotional attachment off of it. It's just paper. It's just a piece of paper, or it's just numbers on a screen. That's all it is. But you give it this life. You allow it to influence your judgments about yourself based on what that number is on the account, the balances, or how much outflow you've got this month versus, what you think it should be. It's very interesting the way we attach so many emotions to money.
Yeah. It is. I love that. Take off the charge, because it's so true. It's something that was created, just like it's a piece of paper and somebody wrote some stuff on it and now it's a denomination. Okay, cool. So what? But it is amazing how much I had wrapped all these feelings around it. Now, I guess I do have, but the other way where it's like, I want to create as much wealth as humanly possible because there's so many things I want to give back to, whether it's a charity or I want my kids to have whatever, opportunities they want, or creating these companies. So maybe I've just flipped the script and said, all right, I'm going to put a little emotional charge, but in a positive light. And I think for me, whenever I can create more opportunity, that really fills me up. And, but yeah, it was not always that way for sure.
I heard somebody, and I don't know where it came from, or I'd attribute to them, but the idea was, if you think money is bad or evil, you haven't given enough of it away.
Love that.
All the good things that you can do with money, if you have more than just enough to meet your basic needs, right? The more you can bring in, the more you can send out.
Yeah, we're going down an interesting path, because one of the challenges I also had was the universal law of give and receive, right? If you just give and give and give and give, you're putting everything out of balance. And that's been my MO. Certainly, you asked one of the biggest challenges. That was another challenge that my wife and my woo-woo doctor, the gal that I call her my woo-woo doctor, she helped me realize that, JM, if you give and you don't receive, you're putting everything out of balance.
Yep.
And it is wild how people are like, give. Yes, but you also have to bring in the gifts. You have to accept those gifts that they're trying to give you.
If everybody gives and nobody takes, what the heck, right? I mean, there needs to be a balance. It comes in and it goes out. There's a flow to everything, right? So if all you're doing is pushing it away, well, how you expect your business to grow?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I coach on this all the time. When somebody says, so if I say, Gene, you look absolutely beautiful today. And Gene goes, no, it's not a great hair day. Well, now you're taking away my compliment. It's like, no, Gene, I'm trying to tell you, you look absolutely amazing. And the right answer anytime is thank you, right? It's a simple just thank you. But I think so often, like, again, you're from the Midwest. I was, or you live in the Midwest, I shouldn't assume, but I was raised in Montana. We were taught to be humble and don't talk about yourself. So often when somebody would give me a compliment, instead of just saying thank you and receiving it, you would actually deflect and be like, no, and you take away the gift that they're trying to give. So if you think about it, it's actually a really selfish way if you don't just say thank you so much. And that was something that I continue to work with my clients on, to say feedback is absolute gold. And I don't care if it's the hardest thing in the world to hear or the greatest, feedback you're giving. You always say the same two words, thank you, because it's an absolute gift.
Because a lot of times what happens is people don't want to appear selfish or conceited or self-involved. And they say, oh yeah, but. And so they bring up the negative to sort of counteract the positive that you just brought to their attention. It's very interesting the way we knock ourselves down. It really is.
Yeah, I had this thing because I love to dance, right? My mom and myself, we would always dance in the basement. And so this 6'5" dude that can dance pretty well, but often my wife would be like, go dance. It makes people happy. And I'm like, no, I don't want to make it about me. Well, by not going out and dancing, it was actually a really selfish thing, right? Because I'm not actually just giving and putting it out there and letting people enjoy it. Instead, I'm keeping it all to myself. And that's one of those things where share your gifts with the world, just like you're doing on this podcast. You have this great energy about you. And I don't know if you've always been so free and sharing with it, but there were some times where I would keep the gift to myself. And it's actually a really selfish thing to do.
But sometimes it's hard to work through, right? I'm an introvert. When I was in my corporate career, whenever I worked for the federal government, wasn't really corporate, but it's that big machine mentality. Nobody knew I was an introvert because I was in leadership positions, right? And so when I told somebody, and he's like, someone who was even higher than me, he says, "You're not an introvert." I said, "Oh, yes, I am." But no one at work knew it because of my persona in certain situations, right? So we're all different at different times, but that's going to shift the conversation now to leadership, right? Talk to me about how you use your gifts to help build teams and create leaders versus managers.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the word manager because I just don't think it serves a lot of purpose. At the end of the day, when I go speak, I'll ask a question to virtually every room. I'll say, show of hands, how many of you are leaders? And you'll see a spattering of hands go up, like maybe 20%. Well, the truth is, everyone is a leader. You are a leader of yourself, first and foremost. And once people realize that you are a leader, every single one of us is a leader. It's amazing how they start to redefine what leadership really means. I think John Maxwell gave the absolute best answer when it comes to leadership. Leadership is influence. That's it. It's very simple. You are influencing people as a leader, good or bad. And we've seen examples of both. But for me, what has always made sense is when it comes to a team, I've been on really, really crappy teams and I've been on some really great teams. And the only difference came down to the leadership of both, right? And what I realized early in my career is it's not about me. So as a leader, when you're on a team, no one's greater than the team. And I don't care if you're CEO or the newest employee. Everyone, in my opinion, should have equal amount of respect. Now, does that mean from a hierarchy standpoint that the CEO doesn't have more clout? No, of course, they have more knowledge. They've been there longer, but it certainly doesn't downgrade or take away from what the brand new employee walking through the door has. And so when I work with these teams, you'll hear me say it often, it's not about me, guys. It's about the team. And that is the theme for what I try to really influence to the rest of the team. And what it allows people to do is to put their egos to the side and say, all right, what is the team trying to accomplish? And another great quote I love is, it's amazing what you can accomplish when nobody cares who gets the credit. I think Harry Truman said it. And it's like, if you don't care who gets the credit, that's how the New England Patriots were so good. Belichick didn't need the accolades. Tom Brady wasn't like, look, I'm the man. That's why it happened. And that's why they were able to win 6 together, because it wasn't about one person saying, look, I did that. Because the truth is, on a team, everybody has a part. No one is solely responsible. And the more that you can do that, the more you can empower your leaders to show up and be the best versions of themselves, the greater accomplishments we can make.
One of my, how do I say this? Insecurity can make or break a team, in my opinion. If you've got a team member who's insecure, that is the weakest link, the way in my experience anyway, right? If you've got team members who are secure in what they do, what they know, the role they play, you've got a high-performing team half the time, right? Everybody's got their own genius area, right? Because you don't want everybody having the same skill set, or what's the point, right? But if you've got someone who doesn't have the confidence in what they bring to the table, or they feel like they shouldn't show what they can bring to the table because that might be bragging, or that might make me look, I don't know, what's the word? They're afraid to show their gifts. The team suffers.
No, you're absolutely right. When I'm asked what my superpowers are, that seems to be a popular question often. And I will say there's 2 things. Simple. I keep things extremely simple. And I elevate confidence for people because I see something in them that maybe they don't see. And I think as a leader, the more that you can do that, when Because when we're looking at a mirror, it's not really a great, true reflection of how we show up to the world. And so often when I tell these business owners, I'm like, yeah, we're going to double your revenue. They're like, well, how? It's got to be some complex formula. No, it's actually really simple. We're going to get real clear on exactly who you are, how you behave, the cultural values of the company, why we exist, and where we're going. What are the goals? And I believe that we're going to take it from here to there, because the only reason you haven't grown it is you have somehow restricted that. And so as a coach or a consultant, to be able to bring in this ultimate confidence and give them that gift, and then they start to perform as if, and it's like, oh, I really am that. Yeah, you've been that guy or gal the whole time. You just needed to know it. So it is fun, Gene, when I can inspire confidence. And it's one of the mantras I use every single day. I say, I'm grateful for being an unlimited or an infinite source of light, power, and confidence. Because I believe that. I truly believe that I'm infinite light, power, and confidence, not for me, for everyone that I happen to influence. So it's something I'm grateful for, and it's something that I love sharing with the world.
So do you do affirmations quite a bit? That's what it sounds like.
So my kid, yes, I do. My kids have said the exact same affirmation every single day of their life. Now, before they could talk, I would do it for them, and I would ask them a question. I'd say, are you a leader? And they would say yes. And I say, why? Because I'm confident, strong, intelligent, athletic, good-looking, dynamic, popular, talented, independent man with a growth mindset. Now, in hindsight, Gene, that was way too long. I should have cut that down by you're confident and strong and powerful. Like those three things would have sufficed. But that's not what I did. And my 15-year-old still today will not go to bed until we do that. I also send a text to my wife and my kids every single day, and they call it the perfect affirmation. I don't recall where I found this one, but it's you are whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Every single morning, I send that to them because I want them to know you are whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. No matter what the world tells you, you are those things. And I want and need you to hear it from me at least so that you can show up that way. And it's been really cool to see. My younger son was being bullied at school. And I said, what happened, Trey? He said, well, the kid said I was fat. I said, well, are you? And he said, no. I said, well, what'd you say? He said, I'm a leader. I'm confident, strong, intelligent. So he does the whole thing. I said, what'd the bully say? He goes, he didn't know what to say, Dad. And I was like, damn right. Pretty cool.
Use the situation. Kill them with kindness is the old adage, right?
That's right. That's right. Or confuse them, I guess.
Yeah. No, but that's a really cool way to start the day, right? If you start the day from a positive note, all the voices in your head have to come back to how you started the day. And does that conflict with the way I started my morning?
Yeah, it's a good point. We have 60,000 thoughts approximately a day going through our head, and not all of them are positive. I mean, I don't know the split, but let's just call it 50-50. So you have 30,000 positive thoughts and 30,000 negative thoughts. Well, if you want to be in control of your destiny, I think we want to really grab a hold of some of those positive ones and really telling yourself that you are these amazing things, that I am I am the energy I desired to attract is another one I say every day. I am abundance, love, success. Some of these things that I say because my brain may not have said that this morning. It may have said, dude, you're a lazy piece of garbage that didn't get up and go to the gym. It may have said that. And then I'm going to say, absolutely not. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, happy, whatever mantra you choose to use. But yeah, it helps rewire your subconscious so that those positive thoughts tend to pop up more frequently than the negative ones.
It also defines your identity. The words I am, in my opinion, are the strongest words in the English language because it defines your belief of your identity. Whatever follows those two words is your belief system.
Yeah, I actually do a yoga every morning with the 7 chakras, and every other one is an I am statement. So I think like the third one, the solar plexus, I am confident. As I'm doing my pose, I just say it over my head again and again. With my root chakra, I am safe and secure. I trust my intuition. Like, I am statements. I totally agree with you. You're letting the world know and the universe know this is exactly who I am.
It's also helpful, I think, to understand when you say a statement that starts with I am and you feel tension in your body. There's something in there providing resistance that is triggering some kind of belief that you don't believe what you're saying. So your subconscious is saying, no, you're not. I am whatever. No, you're not. I am rich. I am a millionaire. No, you're not. And that no, you're not negates all the work that you're doing. So feeling that tension, exploring it to find out what belief is keeping me from living that life that I think I'm supposed to be living. Or I want.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I agree with you. When you find those things, like you said, when you find them, I ask 3 questions. Why do I believe that? Right? This is going back to the money example. Why do I believe that? Well, I believe that because when I was riding in the car with Dad, he would say, the pretty people go to the country club. Okay. I don't know why being a pretty person was bad, but it was. Okay, cool. Is that true? Is the second question. So why do I believe that? Is that true? Well, actually, it's not necessarily true. That's just what Dad had said. And then the last one is, how's that showing up in my life? Like, how's that serving me? It doesn't serve anyone anything to play small. It's not serving the world. It's certainly not serving you or your family. So when I go through, as you're talking about, and you recognize that, like you said, that, ooh, yeah, ask those questions. Why do I believe that? Is that true? And how's that showing up? It gives you a process to figure out where these things came from. And then ultimately, now that we've isolated it, okay, now we can work on it to overcome it.
And that's really important. Where is that showing up? Because beliefs, internal beliefs, don't show up just in our money decisions. They show up in our growth decisions, in our education decisions, in our family decisions, in our relationship decisions. If we think a certain thing is not for us, we're going to do everything in our power to keep it away from us. Whether that's slowing down the growth of your company, not marketing, whatever that happens to be, it's an awareness that needs to, that could be useful if you pay attention.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because, often people are afraid to do that deep work. Like my wife has a theory, everything comes down to childhood trauma to some level. She's like, well, that happened at 12 years old and that's where they're stuck. I'm not sure if it's that simple, but I understand her line of thinking where it's like, as a child, you want to be, protected and you want this amazing thing. But often we get imprinted with these things, and then that's how we show up in our relationship. That's why I love doing deep work. If I know that, look, I wasn't responsible for this thing, but I have it. I wasn't responsible for getting it, but I certainly am for getting it out so I can show up as the best version of me. That's why deep work is so amazing. Let's look at the nasty stuff and let's dive in so that I can thrive in my relationships, in my health, in my professional life. I don't want to sit there and sweep it under the rug and just like continue to struggle. Let's pull that thing out. Let's get a little dirty and realize that, okay, I didn't create this, but it is my responsibility to shed it. And I think that's why this work that we're talking about is so important, and why it's also what really gets me going as a coach is let's figure out what's really going on. Let's get it the heck out of here so you can thrive. You deserve that.
But there can be comfort in holding on to that, because letting go of it can be very scary, because what's that going to create? I've not been in that situation. What's that going to feel like? What's that going to do? How are my friends and family and business partners going to react if I make this change, if I'm different now?
Yeah, because now you don't fit the box, right? You don't fit the label that they put on you. Uh, I do this exercise when I teach too, where I'll put, victim versus victor. And if you do this exercise, it takes about 45 minutes when you really dig deep. You would never choose to be a victim if you looked at how negative all that stuff is. I mean, it's so disempowering. It's crazy. But we choose to play the victim because of a couple positives: sympathy, attention, empathy. But if you look at being a victor and taking true responsibility, I mean, I'm talking for some heinous actions. Like I worked with a young lady that was raped as a child. She was a victim. Got it. However, she chose to be a victor because she didn't want to show up as the victim of this circumstance. She didn't do that, but she chose to show up as a victor. And if you have the courage to just do that, how as well as I do, Gene, I mean, the world is a big, abundant, amazing place, but you got to be willing to step into that light.
And I'm very big on personal power. Just like with your victim example, that happened in the past, and you can allow that to dictate the rest of your life, or you can take back your personal power and say, no, that happened then, this is now. I will work through this. I'm choosing, and decision is a big deal, right? I'm choosing to move in this direction. Or you can decide to stay right where you are. It's all personal choice, right? I'm not saying it's easy, but the first part is awareness.
Yeah, and there's so much power. I love the word choose, because you're absolutely right. Like whatever circumstance you're in, you are choosing that. Let's just be very, very clear. You don't have to do anything other than breathe, eat, the basic necessities. Everything else is a choice. So if you absolutely hate your job, just so we're clear, you're choosing to stay there. That is your choice. I get it. You have responsibilities and all the things. I get it. But it's still a choice. And I think that's so powerful what you said. Like, this is a choice you get to make. Now, I say some thing that really helps me is past is pain, future is anxiety, present is everything. Now, Lao Tzu said it much more eloquently, but I just simplified it because, again, that's what I like to do. Not everything in my past is painful, but if I'm sitting there looking at the glory days and saying how great it, well, what am I saying about my present moment? Or if I'm constantly looking at the future, man, I'm creating so much anxiety. The more you can just choose to be in the present now, oh man, I mean, this is the only time you are guaranteed. You may as well give it everything that you have.
You brought up something that made me laugh inside. Multiple times in my career, I was put into existing teams that I'll say could have functioned more efficiently, if you get what I mean. Yeah. And one of my things that I had to repeat quite often when I would first come into these teams is, this is a choice. You choose to come to work every day. And if you do choose to come to work, then bring your best, right? No one is forcing you to walk in the door. You have other skills. Maybe this doesn't fit you anymore. Maybe the way the team is changing doesn't fit. And that's fine. That's okay. We're all different. But it's a choice. And if you choose to come to work, this is how the workflow is going to go. This is how our attitudes are going to go. This is how the scheduling is going to go, right? But it's a choice. So again, you hand them the power and they can still choose not to take it and say, oh, they're doing this to me. I'm not doing a thing. I'm saying that's your choice. But we can sometimes get stuck in, I have no power, so they're doing things to me.
Yeah. And, the saying, it's not being done to you, it's being done for you. I truly believe it's not being done to you. Stop. You have the power to absolutely choose out. That you have that power. Whether you choose to act on it or not, look, that's on you. But when you take 100% responsibility of that, man, now you're talking, you want to talk leadership? When you take full responsibility and accountability, and you step into that power, now you're going to be a dynamic, amazing leader, because no outside circumstances it has nothing to do with your success or failure, right? And I've had people argue like, well, what about when 08, 9, and 10? Yeah, I went through it too. I absolutely remember when the world, in terms of my world, shut down because we had all of our stuff was based on mortgage and mortgages happening. Well, it was a choice. You can sit there and pine and whine and say, oh my gosh, you get it. Yep, I'm out of business. Yeah. Woe is you. No, make a choice. We chose to get better. And it actually we ended up being like 30% more profitable in 09, not having any of what we had done. It was just a choice. So anyway, this is one of those subjects where I can rant on because it's just such a powerful idea.
But it's so important. It really is. Personal power. And let me backtrack. For certain people, it's a really big deal. For other people, they don't want to hear anything about it. And that's okay if that's your decision and that's your world. That's perfectly fine. It's not my world. Obviously, it's not JM's world. But for some people, that's where they feel safe. That's where they feel comfortable. And we're always living with this mix of certainty and uncertainty, right? We need certainty to feel secure, but too much certainty is very boring, right? So we need to push ourselves a little bit, but some people are not comfortable with actually taking on the idea that I get to choose how my life is and my decisions will create my reality, because maybe they feel like they have no choices and they have no power.
Yeah, I'm playing with this new keynote. Actually, it's so funny. If you're looking literally on my paper in front of me, I've been going through this idea because everything, when I looked at winning, I was like, what are the principles of winning? I'm asking this. My company's name is Let's Go Win, for Pete's sake, and I'm still trying to define exactly what it is. But there's certain words that always come up. We've said it several times. So self-development, self-talk, self-belief. And I was like, there's always a self. So it starts with us, right? And so now I'm going through this acronym right now, and I keep going back and forth on these words, but I'm like strength, energy, leadership, focus. Those are where I'm like self. I think I'm landing on those. But it all starts, again, with you. No one is going to show up and pull you out and save you. And if you think somebody is, you're really setting yourself up for disappointment. So let's go focus on ourself, on our strength, our energy, our leadership, and our focus. And let's work on our self-talk. Let's work on our self-development. Let's work on our self-beliefs. It's a really powerful concept that I'm excited to go whenever I go present this keynote for the first time, because I talked about taking care of yourself and self-love and self-care, but I never broke it down so clearly. And as you're talking, I'm like, this is so fortuitous. I mean, it's just, this is the way energy works, right?
Yes.
And so it's just so strong. It's cool.
Cool. So if you were just starting out in business now, because some of our listeners are, what are some of the pitfalls that you wish you knew how to circumnavigate? What are some of the things that come up for new business owners or small business owners that typically show up that if they knew a little bit more, maybe it might be easier for them to get through?
Yeah. It's okay to not be okay is one.
I just put that in my newsletter. I just did.
So good. So good, because it's true, right? I'm not okay right now. This sucks, man. Like that's okay to not be okay. The other thing that I would say is really, really continuously putting yourself out there. And here's my example. I talked to you about when I made my first, 7 figures. So I was late 20s, 27, 28. I remember at some point, and this sounds insane, Gene, what I'm about to say, but I remember thinking at some point, I have all the friends in the world that I need. And I was not opening the door up for any more. At 28 years old, do you know how crazy that sounds to me now? But I remember thinking that.
That's funny.
It is so funny and ridiculous, by the way. And I'm 46 now, and I look forward to, like, you and I didn't know one another prior to this conversation. I get so excited when I get, whether I'm interviewing or I'm being interviewed, to meet someone else and you just kind of feel it. That would be the other thing I would say to people. Continue to put yourself out there. Jean said she's an introvert. Some people might say introvert means you don't put yourself out there. I don't believe that. I think it's the way that you fill yourself up. I don't know how you feel about that, Jean, but
I agree.
I would say, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I agree. I agree.
So put yourself out there and be open to all the amazing possibilities that the world has to offer. And I remember literally at that stage of life going, no, I don't need any more friends. That is literally crazy. And I'm glad I shed that pretty quickly after that. But I will tell you, it happened. And so those would be the two things. It's okay to not be okay. Put yourself out there. And the other thing is imposter syndrome. Everybody has it at some point. Just wear it and love it. And just, you know what? It doesn't mean that you're an imposter. It just means it's something new for you. Embrace it.
The bit about, well, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough knowledge. And so I take more and more and more classes. And when I get to where I feel comfortable, then I'll do this. Well, there's always somebody who's one level down from you that you could be helping, right? But if we wait until that perfect time and I feel perfectly ready, well, if you're not perfect, the perfect time may not ever come. And look at all those people you could have helped or influenced in a positive way that didn't happen. Just like when you didn't go out on the dance floor and all the people who didn't get to have fun watching you make a fool of yourself or whatever it was, right?
Well, and it's a good point, because honestly, I remember sitting there not writing my first book for that perfect moment. Well, what don't I know? I don't want to write it and then it changed. Of course it's going to change. The world changes, but you're going to be selfish and keep that in. Imagine if I had got hit by that bus and my kids don't have that resource today. How selfish would I have been? So take action, 100%. Just go put yourself out there and enjoy the journey, because that's really, the joy is in that journey. When we're getting our butts kicked, that's when you're like, okay, this sucks. But those are the stories that you'll love talking about. It's so funny because, and you said it earlier, if it's too easy, we get bored. So embrace these challenges as an entrepreneur. Like, yeah, man, this sucks. Enjoy the moment. It's the part that you're going to miss someday when you sell that company.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But before we go, you've got a resource for our listeners. Tell us about that.
Sure. So I do what's called work-life balance. I've waffled with the harmony or balance. I'm not sure which word I love better, but
harmony.
Yeah, I think so too.
Balance, that phrase is just so overused, and there's no jazziness behind it, no excitement behind it anymore.
And it doesn't really work, right? I mean,
No.
So I should probably fix the free thing I'm going to tell you, but it's work-life balance. And ultimately, I check in on it on a frequent basis. It's free to you guys. Just rate yourself in these areas. And if one's way out of whack, put some focus on it and just give yourself that love. So anyway, yeah, thank you for that, Jean.
What's your website?
Letsgowin.com. So if you let's go win, my face will pop up. And if anybody's listening, you're like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to, and be inspired, or I want to double my revenue, hit me up. I love meeting new people, as I said. So yeah, letsgowin.com.
So you're all over LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those places?
All of them. Yeah. I've been, putting out quite a bit of content. And again, it's just content that hopefully people get some knowledge, some enjoyment, and get inspired.
Cool. We'll have links to all of his places in the show notes below. You can just click on the link. It'll take you right to him. But to wrap up this episode, do you happen to have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, whenever I get that question, I'm searching what's on my heart. And here's what I would say. Show up as you. It's one of the first keynotes I ever gave because your authentic self, that taking the mask off and just truly being you, there's so much power in that. And so I always say masks are meant for parties. They're not meant for real life. Take them off and just show up as that authentic, amazing you, and just enjoy it, man. We don't have that much time on this earth. You may as well enjoy it while you're here.
Cool. I like that. And I totally agree. So thank you so much for being here with us. I enjoyed this conversation. Like I said, I'm really into leadership and teams. I love the concept. So when I can talk to people about it, it juices me, makes me happy. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jean. I really mean it. It was wonderful. You're a great host.
Cool. Thank you. And for the listeners, thanks for tuning in again. Every Tuesday, we drop a new episode. Hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. But until next time, this is your host, Jean Border, with the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey.